You dedicated your life. You were all in. But now that it's over, you feel paralyzed. You're not lazy, you're not broken. You're simply dealing with something that almost every high-performing athlete faces when they retire. Tunnel vision syndrome. And until you understand this, you will stay stuck. Tunnel vision syndrome psychologically is defined when your brain gets so wired to focus on one thing, and that of which came from being an athlete and performing your sport, that it doesn't even see any other possibilities. It is a form of cognitive rigidity, meaning that your prefrontal cortex, which is this part of your brain, which I've talked a lot about in other videos, it's responsible for decision making, problem solving, high forms of conscious thinking, etc. This becomes so rigid to the fact where it will filter out distractions, it will filter out the noise, and literally tunnel vision its focus and energy and conscious thinking on one thing. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a superpower for you to succeed as an athlete, whether that was on the field, on a stage, as an athlete, okay? It really, really served you. But now, as an ex-athlete who has retired, it is a trap. You may feel like if it's not as big as what I did before, then what's the point? Or you might be thinking, I don't know what else I could be good at. Or you might simply just feel blind to other options. It's like, yeah, I know there are other options there, but I don't truly see them and I don't truly believe them to be options. This tunnel vision syndrome simply just comes from being an athlete, the identity of being an athlete. You didn't just play your sport, you were your sport. And most likely this came from a young age or was stimulated from a young age, which makes this tunnel vision syndrome even more ingrained and wired into your brain, meaning your relationships, your environment, your training facility, training routine, everything, even like potentially other supporters like mum and dad or family or close friends, it was all tied to one thing. And on top of that, you were praised for the tunnel vision focus. And one reason you were praised for it was because the tunnel vision focus or syndrome per se actually had a payoff, a positive payoff of some sort of reward, whether that was validation, status, money, medals, the Olympic Games, you name it. Unfortunately though, the downside to this is that the neural pathways for play, for creativity, for exploration, they were all really shut down. And because the tunnel vision syndrome is so, again, rigid and strong, it really lessens your ability to know or even think creatively, to know what it means to be explorative or think in an explorative manner, or to know what it means to just play and go about something in like a playing, fun, non-competitive manner, for example. So essentially, you have lost the one thing in your life that previously gave you a huge fundamental sense of structure, which I've talked about in other videos. But now your brain is still looking through this very, very narrow lens. It's as though you're looking through like a microscope or whatever you call those things. I don't know what you call them. And that's all you can see, okay? And you can't see the peripheral. You can't see what's behind you or to your side, etc. Now, some symptoms of tunnel vision syndrome. You may feel overwhelmed when you are asked, what do you want to do now? I got asked that all the time and I always felt overwhelmed because I didn't truly know the answer. Another symptom is that you can't even imagine anything else in terms of like a purpose or a career that will make you anywhere near as excited as your sport made you. You are afraid to try new things because instantly you're not elite at them. You feel like your best days are behind you. You reject new ideas before even giving them a go or giving them a shot. You compare everything to your past success and therefore nothing feels like a success to you and nothing feels good enough. First tip to overcoming this is to name what is actually going on and acknowledge what is going on. For example, I'm stuck in tunnel vision, or I'm stuck in tunnel vision syndrome, and my brain needs to create new pathways. In terms of your well-being and in terms of finding your purpose and something meaningful and finding your most authentic self, healing, etc., you genuinely need to be open to the idea of creating new neural pathways and create the neural pathways. If not, as I said in the beginning, you will stay stuck. The thing that is so important to take away here is that even the acknowledgement of, okay, I have tunnel vision syndrome, all right? That disturbs the autopilot thinking, okay? And simply the acknowledgement acknowledges and creates the awareness that it's not you. Tunnel vision syndrome is not you. It is just the way your brain has been wired. Another effective strategy, which might scare you a lot or creates a lot of fear, but I encourage you to do so, is to try something new, but do it pointlessly. Like, there's no point, okay? Do something that's completely pointless that is new to you, okay? So it's not based on this outcome or goal or reward or payoff. There's no point to doing it, but you just do it. Basically, jump in the deep end. You see, the goal here is not about excellence, it is about expansion. And even that very sentence might be like, I don't want to live like that. No, you need to live like that in order to heal, which is so important, not just for your well-being, but for what you do in the future, your sense of fulfillment, purpose, joy, etc. in the future. It is something that is honestly necessary. For example, take a pottery class, play a game of chess, do some writing, do some painting. I remember I've done plenty of things that I am no good at all, but it expanded my sense of expansion, okay? And I started to do things that weren't just tied to excellence. For example, like boogie boarding. I can't boogie board for the life of me. I'm no good at it. And initially it seemed pointless. I was like, there's no point in me boogie boarding. And then eventually I realized that actually there is a point. The point is to create more expansion and not be so, tunnel visioned. Literally get bad at something on purpose. It wasn't the first time I boogie boarded. The second time, I just got so dumped. If you guys don't know, when you properly boogie board, you're meant to go sideways on the wave, right? Kind of like surfing. And I just got dumped straight away. I hit my head really bad. It hurt so much I had to go home and lie down for 3 hours. But the point is not to hurt your head, but the point is to be bad at something. Because your brain, it genuinely needs to get curious and it needs to practice this sense of curiosity, which all leads back to trying something new. I remember my dad always used to say be on the learning curve again, because I guess I've always been a little bit nerdy, but nonetheless, when you are on a learning curve of anything, it doesn't necessarily have to be academia or academic, but when you do initiate the learning curve, maybe it's like learning to cook a new meal, or I don't know, learning to paint, for example. When you learn anything new, it is creating this whole new sense of curiosity. Another tip is to reignite the inner explorer. So this sense of exploration or curiosity is still in you, okay? You just have to tap into it. And what I mean by this is I want you to remind yourself of who you were before you became elite, before you even became recognized, before you were even good, because that point in time did exist. Before you were elite and before you were even a beginner, I want you to go back to that vision, because before you were even a beginner, before you even tried, there was obviously a thought pattern to a certain degree of, I want to try this. That was curiosity. And remember, the kid you, the child part of you, who, when they first started the sport, your very first lesson, or your very first, it would have been a lesson before a game or performance, I assume. Your very first sense of playing the sport, okay, it was not about medals or goals right? Because you have to learn how to even do the sport to compete or to perform, okay? And that sense of curiosity, it's still inside you. That child is still inside you. However, it is very scared, okay? And it's really covered by this huge sense of fear. Another tip is to break the all or nothing mentality. Now, scientifically, the all or nothing mentality is also closely aligned to people who have ADHD, if you don't know already. Nonetheless, you might have the all or nothing mentality without having ADHD. Success after sport, it won't come from obsession. It won't, because you are now chasing a different form of success. Your new sense of success will come from iteration. It actually takes a lot of courage to step into the fear of the unknown, to be a beginner at something, to be bad at something, okay? That is really uncomfortable initially. So try something, reflect, and then adjust. You know, I've made so many decisions and tried so many things that I was either bad at or that didn't align with me, but I knew I had to try all these different things. In fact, you might find some old shorts videos on YouTube of mine where I talk about the menstrual cycle and like, oh my goodness, what is it? Basically natural curities to cramps and period pain and irregular periods, which is all scientifically backed. And it is something that really helped me, but obviously it wasn't something that I wanted to do long-term in terms of like a career. So you want to build a portfolio of interests, and that is what I have done over the years. I haven't been afraid to try this and try that and give it a really good rock hard go. And if I didn't enjoy it, then I wouldn't continue to do it. Or if it didn't align with me, then I wouldn't continue to do it. But there are things that align with me, okay, that still have no payoff in terms of like a reward. There are still things I do that I enjoy that don't necessarily give a payoff of like money or like a status, even though I don't see status as a payoff anymore, or like career, okay? But it's something I now found a sense of joy from, and it still helps me expand, because there's always more expansion and more curiosity that you can create and explore in, okay? You're not just tied to a couple of things. It depends on your ability to be expansive and overcome this fear. The world is quite truly very wide, and thankfully I already knew that, because I'm very grateful and thankful. I lived overseas, I lived in different parts of Australia, and I already had this huge sense of how much you can learn by traveling and not being closed-minded and fixed-minded. So that was something that actually helped me overcome the tunnel vision syndrome and overcome the fear. And most likely, if you were a professional athlete or quite successful in your athletic field, you have experiences where it's like you go out, you take a risk, and you learn from it and you grow from it. To close off here, tunnel vision syndrome, it is not your fault. It is simply the side effect of being elite at something for too long. But just like how you trained for mastery in that athletic field, you can now train for freedom, train for curiosity, train for exploration, train for creativity, and train for a life that's deeply fulfilling and meaningful. And the only way you truly find that is by expanding. As I said, I did so many things and tried so many things and failed at so many things. Some of them I don't do and I don't enjoy, but some I do enjoy and I still do. And overall, this has also led me to finding my true purpose, okay? That of which is helping ex-athletes heal. Now, no matter how old you are not too late. I used to think, I am a lot older than you think, I promise you, okay? And look, anyway, that doesn't matter. My point is, I thought, okay, now that I'm older and I'm not in my, university years, or I'm not this young adult anymore, I'm not a teenager anymore, now I can't be that explorative, or I can't be creative, or I just don't have those chances anymore, right? Because often, due to society, as we get older and go through different decades and stages of our life, we think that we have to be rigid. We think that we have to settle, for example. Not to say that being in a relationship is a bad thing, but what I'm saying is society kind of gives us the idea that the older we get, the less expansive we can be. We can't play like a child. We can't paint like a child. We can't travel as much as a child, for example. But these are just stories and narratives and beliefs. They are not the truth. And I really do genuinely think that society really drills this in as well. You are getting started for real this time if you acknowledge the tunnel vision syndrome and you decide to battle the fear, face the fear, be expansive, be creative, go be bad at something, go and be a beginner at something. Okay, and again, it's not a waste of time, and it's not about the positive payoff of reward, money, status, anything. It's actually for the payoff of getting to know yourself more and overcome the tunnel vision syndrome, which will simply provide you more well-being and help you live a more fulfilling life long term. Because how are you meant to know if you never try?